Welcome back to my morning report analysis videos on Wednesday, 5th of October with me, Richard Perry, market analyst at Hantec Markets. Let's get on to our Trader of the Year instruments today, and we're looking at all this week: dollar yen, Aussie dollar, Aussie Kiwi, sterling yen, dollar sec, Dow Jones, silver, and coffee. Now, straight into it, we've got the breakout we've had on dollar yen above the 102.80 level. That is sort of generating into a bit of a base of support near term, although you'd argue sort of 102.65 is sort of also helping on the near term basis. But certainly that improvement in the outlook is continuing and is holding. And I think you're buying into corrections now, so you'd see this RSI unwinding on the hourly. Anything back towards 50, I think you'll start to see a bit of a buying opportunity. You've just seen a bit of a drift lower as this market's just consolidated, but generally speaking, I think the outlook looks pretty positive for dollar yen again. So 103.35 is the next resistance, 104.03 is subsequent to that. Aussie dollar has been sort of moving a little bit sideways. Came under a bit of pressure on after the RBA yesterday, and I think we're going to see just further bit of downside move. But to be honest, it's pretty much ranging. If I zoom out, you can see that sort of ranging phase. You would argue that could potentially turn into a top pattern, and I sort of talked through that possibility on Aussie Kiwi, and I'll look at that in a minute, but that is still a potential top pattern on the Aussie dollar. Aussie has fallen away again early morning today, so the pressure is onto the downside. You've got a bit of a pivot at 76.50, which is providing a bit of the overhead resistance. That 76.45 again adding there, but certainly is putting pressure onto the downside near term, and little rallies are being sold into now intraday. Possibility of a retest of that kilo at 75.87, but certainly that overhead pivot at 76.50 is resistance, and certainly the sequence of low highs and low lows in the last couple of days is putting pressure to the downside. So let's look at Aussie Kiwi now. The that top pattern I was talking about, possibility has now been broken. Aussie Kiwi sort of burst higher yesterday on the Kiwi weakness rather than the Aussie, but as the Kiwi weakness sort of outweighed the Aussie weakness, but it's just started to drift back a bit. I think you would argue that any move back towards sort of 105.80 area could be seen as a chance to buy. There's another breakout, 105.65, so 105.65 towards 105.85, arguably a band of support now. It'll be interesting to see what happens with this RSI pulling back towards sort of unwinding territory. So 50 is generally seen to be as a decent unwind, but the corrective move is underway near term with the stochastics falling away and the MACD lines crossing lower. So maybe there is a pullback towards 105.60 area that could be seen, but it'd be interesting to see if that starts to build a new level of support at that level. Sterling yen is interesting because it's basically gone sideways. Sterling has been really sort of under pressure in the last few days, obviously against the dollar and euro, but basically sterling yen has moved sideways. 130 big figure to 131.50 seems to be the level of resistance on the upside. 31.50 there, 31.35 I think this one I saw, yeah, 31.35, so, but basically increasingly neutral. So you use these momentum indicators to play the range. Certainly RSI towards 60 seems to be a selling opportunity, RSI towards sort of 35.40 is a buying opportunity, but playing the range seems to be the way to play it. Dollar sec, again another range play, interestingly. Sort of you had that rally on the dollar strength yesterday, but sort of again hit the range highs and pulled lower, but there is a slight bullish bias within the range, even though it sort of has been really quite choppy actually, but I would be using the RSI to play this one. So but towards 30, that seems to be buying opportunity levels, and we're not a million miles away from there now, with the MACD line sort of back towards neutral. I'd still say that this is a sort of a slight bullish bias. You could argue that there is a bit of a pivot line around 88.55, 80 area, so maybe look out for that. That is supportive. If that continues to be used as support, then that could be a little buying opportunity. Dow Jones is another range play, but it's dropping towards the bottom of the range. a little bit more quiet yesterday than it has been in recent days, but still it is a range play. Pretty choppy. It's back towards the support, you could argue, around 1800 and 18,100. And it seems to be that that is around about where the buyers come in. RSI towards 30.35. I think this could be a buying opportunity potentially. If you see a drop towards 1800 today, watch out for that. It's about 68, 70 ticks away. So I think you've got to continue to play the range. I mean, the moving averages would suggest there is a slight bearish bias, and the lower highs you can argue in place. But the support around 1850, 1800 to maybe 18,100 seems to be a base of support, but obviously 18,050 and 18,000 as well seems to be levels of more significant support from September. But as I said, it does seem to be a bit of a range play. Silver is the big mover in the instruments that we've got on the competition at the moment. I know a lot of people are looking at silver, and certainly have been trading it to the short side. There's a bit of support that's coming yesterday. Let me show you on the daily chart where this has really moved. It broke below 1850. That was the big breakdown level yesterday, 1835, 1850. And you're now back to support around at 1780 towards 18 big figure. And that is arguably holding. So this will be an interesting move near term. 1750 is another sort of arguable pivot line from this sort of few reaction highs, reaction low. So so you're into a pretty decent band of support now, 1750 to 18 big figure. Below that you're looking at the key level of around 17 big figure, 1707, sort of mid to late June lows. But this is the big uptrend that comes in. That big uptrend on gold was obviously broken, but the big uptrend on silver is still intact, which is interesting. But the outlook looks increasingly corrective on silver, and we'll need to see whether this support, I think around 1767, holds, because it is an unwinding play at the moment. But will that pressure start to build once again to the to the downside once the market has unwound back towards sort of 40, maybe 50? And finally, let's look at coffee, not on the hourly chart though, daily chart. Coffee has been negative in the fact that it is dropping away, and lower highs, lower lows, putting pressure on this 147 support. And if that gets broken, 146.50 to 147 is a base of support. 146 sort of 50 area. Okay, 146.30. Sorry, yeah, 146.30 area. Seems to be a basis of old resistance that broke out to the upside. Tested on the dip back in September and held the move, but if you see that move broken down, you're sort of looking back at 140 area and possibly even 135. So this could be this is a very important move that we're seeing on silver. On coffee, with the corrective move momentum indicators coming through. So yeah, this is a very interesting crossroads on the price of coffee. So I wish you good luck in your trading across all your instruments today, and I'll speak to you later.